I popped into my silver dealer and asked him how many Mercury dimes he had in stock. He said he had just over $56 worth. So, I bought them all. Hey everybody, it's RobFindsTreasure and welcome back to my channel. Like I said in the intro, I periodically do junk silver purchases, and in this episode, I asked my silver dealer how many Mercury dimes he had in stock, and he said he had $56.20 worth, so I said I'd take them all. Now, $56.20 worth is about 562 Mercury dimes. So I don't know if we're going to find anything fancy schmancy in here, any better dates, any full band lines, things like that. They look like your average everyday run-of-the-mill Mercury dimes, probably pretty slick on the older years, probably a little better on the newer years, but I will be looking for any 1916Ds, 1921s, 26 PDRS, as well as the 42 overdate, which is the 42 or 41, and I think that's in the Philadelphia and Denver mints, which I'll be looking for. And then, of course, I'll keep my eye out for a 45 Micro S. I have a few of those, but I always take more if I can. At the end of the day, I'm going to dump this bag out. First order of business is to go ahead and sort it by decade. If I find something after the dump out in between the sort that's worth bringing in for, I'll go ahead and do that. Well, that's what 560 plus Mercury dimes looks like. And like I said, they're not in the greatest shape, but some are in pretty decent shape. I would imagine the best ones are going to be the ones in the 40s. But either way, now it's time to start stacking and sorting. And like I said, if I find something exciting, I'll bring it back in. Otherwise, we'll see you after they're sorted by decade. So we've got them all sorted. These are the teens, the 20s, the 30s, the 40s minus the 42s. And I already checked the 45s as I was sorting them for any 45S Micro S's. We did not have any. These are all the 42 PD and S's, and I've got to go through them now to see if I have any 42 over 41 Philadelphia and Denver minted varieties. If I do, that's a huge score because those fetch a lot in any grade. Let me go through those really quickly, and then we'll come back and talk about the rest. Well, unfortunately, we scoped all of those 42 P&D Mercury dimes, and we didn't have the overdate, but I figured I would take a second to show you the two different overdates. That way you could check your 42 Merc dimes to see if you have the valuable ones that I'm talking about. For the 42P, it's an obvious one. Take a look at that 42 or 41. No doubter, can't miss it. If you scope it, you will see it. For the 42D, it's a little bit tougher to see. You do have part of that 4 right there and a little bit of the 1 behind the 2, but you also have doubling on In God We Trust. And when you see that, you also know you have it as well as the date. So the 42P overdate or DDOFS 101 and the 42D FS 101 overdate with some extra doubling as well. Keep an eye out for those. I brought up PCGS to show you how much they're worth. And even in a G4 condition, the 42P is worth $375 and the 42D is worth $325, and that's in G4. So like I said, they fly up in value north of $2,500 and $3,000 in a mint state grade. We didn't have any. It's unfortunate, but I'm going to always keep my eye out for them. I had nothing in the 30s. I did see a 1930 in there, and I saw some 26s and a couple of nice teens. Let me run through those and see if I have anything worth showing. If not, I'll be back with a wrap-up of the Merc dime purchase. So we've gone through the teens and 20s. Really nothing but coal in the teens. We did have one 1916, although obviously no mint mark. We had a 1917D, which is a better date, but look at that condition. Slick, pretty beat up. You can barely make out the D. It's back there. And these do fetch about $7 in G4 condition, but man, that's a rough one. We got a nicer 1917S, but it's only worth $1 more than what you'd normally pay for junk silver. And then we got a pretty nice fat-rimmed 1918 Denver as well. Again, about $1 more than normal. Nothing really fancy schmancy in the teens. For the 20s, we did have 5 1926s. All were Philly, none of them especially nice. So in wrap-up, nothing really that fantastic or exciting in the Merc Dimes. We had none that were in great shape to check for full bands or anything like that. But the good news is I got to add 562 more Merc Dimes to my collection. Now, my silver dealer called me while I was looking through these dimes and said that he had quite a bit of quarters and wanted to know if I wanted to pick them up. So I think what I'll do is I'll marry this Mercury dime hunt to a quarter hunt. And when I get the quarters, I'll come back and we'll do the quarter hunt next. Well, I'm back. It's been a few hours and I've got $49.25 worth of silver quarters. He did say there are some better, almost BU 64s in here. I don't know if they're 64P or D or if there's other years, but bottom line is we got almost $50 or a couple of hundred quarters. I guess 196 quarters, 197 quarters to go through. And I'll be checking for any varieties, checking for any better dates. You guys know the drill. Let me dump them out and then we'll do a decade sort first. Well, there you have it. 197 quarters we got to sort. Let me get on it. I'll bring you back if we find something exciting while we sort or when I have them sorted by decade. So I've got them sorted by decade and I didn't see anything particularly nice, but we did have a handful of 30s, 40s, 50s, a couple of nicer 50s that I'll check against my backup album. These are the common 60s as far as appearance. And then these are the nicest of the quarters. I think they all were 64, and I don't know about the mints just yet, but wanted to save those for a little more of a variety search with a little more scrutiny since they're in better shape. Let me go ahead and start going through them. And I think what I'll do is I'll go through the nice BU 60s first for any varieties. And if I find any, I'll bring it back. Otherwise, we'll move into the more circulated 60s next. Well, we went through all the 64s that were in almost BU shape, and they all were Philadelphia, and they almost all fit into 2 rolls. So probably a couple of the same rolls from a customer that brought them in. Either way, there were none of the varieties, none of the 3 DDRs, not the DDO, no Type B reverses. I'm going to quickly comb through the circulated 60s because based on the condition, I'm only really going to be focusing on if there's any 64D Type C reverses in there, and maybe a few of the DDOs or DDRs if they're in great enough shape. Let me do that really quick and I'll bring you back. Nothing in those 60s worth mentioning? Let me comb through the rest and bring you back if I have a find or with the wrap up. Well, the rest of the quarter hunt did not produce anything that was valuable. And you know what? That's junk silver purchases sometimes. Sometimes you get a couple of good scores, sometimes you don't. This time we didn't, but I get to add a lot more junk silver to my stack and that makes me happy. Hopefully, despite the lack of finds, you still found this video interesting and fun. If you did, I'd appreciate that thumbs up. And as always, everyone, happy hunting, happy stacking, and thanks for watching.